We've worked with Bryan of Don't Die and Blueprint to bring their AI, Bryan. They have a use case where they have this AI health coach to reduce biological age and other use cases that we worked on.
Do you think OpenAI can catch up to what you guys are doing? Do you think, do you think that's
totally. Yeah, totally. I mean, anybody could catch up to anybody right now because we're in the AI arms race, right? Like I could make an enterprise SaaS over the weekend, what we call epistemic evals. So let me break it down. There's foundational model evals, OpenAI, Anthropic, they work on that. You go to ChatGPT, that's what you're accessing, right? And so they have to do a lot of work to make that better. And then there's application-specific evals. So you have your foundational models you might be calling. I think people could remake Workday in much less time than it took to make Workday because of AI right now. And I think of it like a house. Like it used to take a lot of plumbers and architects and electricians to make houses. And now with AI, it's kind of like we get these software houses almost for free. There's a lot of maintenance. There's a lot of problems. You have to spend way more time in planning and architecture. You have to think about downstream.
Most AI agents don't actually understand users. Robert is building a fix. Robert Ta is the co-founder of EpistemicMe and a former product architect at Workday and Ceridian. He's helping teams debug agent behavior and build belief-aware AI. You'll learn how Robert's open source SDK helps teams build agents that can reason, adapt, and align with what users actually believe. Hey, everyone. Another episode of the Home-Based AI today with Robert Ta. Robert is building EpistemicMe. It's a personalization SDK for companies looking to build chatbots and make them more personal. I'll have Robert introduce himself and give you a better overview about what he's working on.
Hey, everybody, Robert Ta. David, thank you so much for having me on the pod and doing a reciprocal guest. Everybody check that out if you haven't already. And there's a part 2 that's coming up as well. And I'm sure, because David and I get along really well, I'm sure there'll be part 3, part 4, and then maybe part 30 once we're trillionaires with our startups.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, let's go back to this video at that point in time. So I'm Robert. I'm bootstrapping EpistemicMe. You could go to EpistemicMe.ai. And what we were really focused on is AI alignment. And when David says personalization, I kind of equate that to alignment. So let me say what I mean by that. That really means for a use case, let's ground on that, an AI health coach, if I come to it as a user and let's say I ask it for how do I reduce my biological age, there's so many things that one might do to improve their health or reduce their biological age. And the function of what the user might actually need in that moment of time on their journey to be healthier, dropping 10 pounds as a goal, that's going to be different human to human, right? Some humans don't like running. Some humans are vegan. Some humans live in different places that have constraints around the type of food they could eat, the air quality, et cetera. So personalization, when I say personalization is a function of AI alignment, I mean, how aligned is the AI to help you reach your goals? And obviously part of that is not killing you or not harming you along the way. So we're building an open source SDK that solves that problem from the level of belief systems. So to solve that really well, we have to understand what is a user's belief systems. What is a user's belief system at a certain point in time, and how does that evolve with them along the journey to lose 10 pounds or run their first marathon or sleep better? I definitely need to sleep better. Not this a lot. So that's what I'm working on. And a big reason that I'm really curious about this problem space is I'm very interested in philosophy and neuroscience. And epistemology is the branch of philosophy that deals with knowledge. Like, what are the limits of knowledge? How do we know something is truth? And I really see truth as a process. So how does a software system understand the user and what the user sees as truth to them or their belief systems? Or am I a good runner? Or can I actually lose 10 pounds? Or can I ever improve my sleep? So that's what I mean by belief systems and tied to personalization, tied to AI alignment. Okay, I've nerded out about this forever, David, so you'll have to wait a little bit.
All good. So, like, tell me, like, who is this for? Like, who's the actual user? I mean, of this.
Yeah. So, I guess I'll just reference. We've worked with Bryan of Don't Die and Blueprint to bring their AI, Bryan. They have a use case where they have this AI health coach to reduce biological age and other use cases that we worked on. And so we brought that to beta. That's actually in the Don't Die app. Shout out to that community. I think Bryan Johnson has one of the coolest communities. I'm part of it. We just did a cool little longevity event over the weekend. So shout out to that. Go to the app, check them out. Their dev team is awesome. So we worked on that. And in the health space in particular, it's a personalization sensitive space. So who's the ideal customer profile for us? Who's the persona? It's usually a developer or a product manager at the doer level that is trying to figure out, hey, my users are asking how to improve their health. And I don't know how to program this agent in a non-deterministic LLM pipeline, because most agents nowadays are based on LLM pipelines, right? So it's non-deterministic. It's subjective what good or bad is. And I guess I'll just pause there and say, if you go to a health coach, there's good health coaches and there are bad health coaches. There are good fitness instructors and bad ones. And it's subjective as to how, but one example might be, I go to a health coach and I say, I want to lose 10 pounds. And they just say, here, do this list. But they didn't ask me about what I like doing, my previous experiences trying to lose weight or whatever that might help them tailor a recommendation to me or hyper-personalize a recommendation. So the problem that we solved there was, how might Bryan AI or other AI health coaches assess the user's subjectivity in their belief systems about health, sleep, diet, exercise in this domain space, to then guarantee that we're giving them the next best question to learn more about them, to then give them the next best recommendation to get to their target outcome. And that might be lose 10 pounds or run their first marathon or go to bed and sleep throughout the night and get more restorative sleep, that kind of thing.
Got it.
So it's like a technical PM or engineer tasked with building an agent, and it's in a space of high sensitivity to personalization, meaning health, longevity, mental health, personal finance, education. Those are the areas where it's very emotional, these problem spaces. It requires a hyper-personalization approach, and that's exactly what we solve.
Got it. Okay, so from like an end user perspective, if I go to Bryan AI or anyone using your product or integrating your product with their, personal coach product, how would this enhance my experience? Like for example, I've been trying to lose weight for forever, right? And so I do all the things. I don't do all the things, but I work out 6 times a week. In addition, I'll go on walks, I'll run, I'll sprint. In addition to going to to the weight room. One thing that is difficult for me to do is my diet. I'm a founder, high stress, everything moves so fast. I tried to count my calories, but every time I walk by the fridge, I end up grabbing a snack, right? And I know a lot of founders who struggle with that. So how would your product help another AI company understand what's wrong with me, what my beliefs are?
Totally. And so just dissecting that, you have a target goal. You want to lose some weight. You've assessed that, hey, I already work out a lot. It's the diet that's the problem. And it's also my lifestyle, and being a founder is really stressful and busy. Mm-hmm. So it makes it hard to resist the temptation of bad things for my diet. Mm-hmm. And that leads to me not reaching my goal of target weight loss. And so I like framing things in the job theory framework. So the Jobs to Be Done framework by Bob Moesta. So everybody hires a product to solve or to make them help them make progress on their job to be done. So your job to be done is, I want to lose weight. Mm-hmm. And the way you have assessed it is diet's probably the constraint. Mm-hmm. So David, I guess I'll just appeal to the founder in you, because you mentioned this is part of the personalization aspect to you, right? You think of your business probably as a system. The system that gets leads, generates demands, and then how do we nurture the leads? How do we close? And there's metrics in your system. Mm-hmm. So then the question is, do you think about your diet as a system? Do you think about your healthy lifestyle as a system? So for example, right there is an example where, as a founder, you're so busy, you're making decisions all day. You're fatigued making decisions. So it's like, it's easy to just say yes to the junk food. But what if you just like hired a chef or had meal delivery service, and then it was just guaranteed good food that all tasted good, and then you kind of automate the system, right? So that's one way to think about it. And this is me answering you as if you're an end user to my end user for the AI health coach example. But my end user, the developer on Bryan's team that is tasked with fulfilling your job to be done via AI Bryan or an AI health coach, they would have to think about that. They would have to look at when David asks for, hey, I'm having trouble trying to lose 20 pounds or whatever, and I'm a founder, and I've tried these things, I work out this much. The agent's responsibility is kind of like a health coach. They're trying to understand the context of you and all of that input into David's founder. He's a male, he's this age, his target weight is this. Here's other things he said in our app that helps us infer what his belief systems are about. And here are some things he's actually tried. And here are evidence points of what worked or what didn't based on his previous interactions in the app or talking to the bot. And so we take all that input complexity and we say, at the point where the LLM generates a response, people will use prompt engineering and all sorts of things. But at the end of the day, you have a continuous improvement eval system, ideally, where on the fly, you're like, hey, David said this. And also, hey, the agent gets this context on who David is. And then that goes to an eval, ideally, which is like trained on, for this particular use case, what would David's cohort of ICP want as a response? Oh, okay, we looked at the other traces or conversational data sets of other people like David in this shape of a user model, also founder, also male, also with the starting baseline, trying to lose 10 pounds or 20 pounds, also. And then we personalize the response. So instead of you coming and saying, hey, a bad interaction will be, hey, I need help with my diet. And then the thing just says, okay, do these things and lose 500 calories a day, but that's not what you're looking for, right? What you might be looking for is, hey, do you think about this as a system? Like it might need to talk to you like I just did, which is, do you think about it like a business where it's like, how do you get inflow of calories? How do you remove decision-making fatigue of the right calories? Like, and maybe that groks in your mind in a better way than say a high school student who has no entrepreneurship experience and how they might need to be talked to lose weight. So that's what I mean by personalization, is taking into context who the person is at the belief level and the identity level to drive the next best recommendation or response to get the user to their target goal. Yeah, so does that help?
Yeah, that definitely helps. But so my question then is, where do you guys get all the data to be able to make this assessment of like, what would be good like for me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe to explain what we do, to be specific to any developers or technical product managers that are listening to this, what EpistemicMe does is we built a pretty sweet data model. You could think of it as the Linux of belief systems. So we're trying to create a standard. It's open source, a standard for a sweet data model for modeling beliefs for a person. And how those belief systems evolve over time. So one example might be, starting today, I don't believe, let's say I'm a user, I'm like trying to run my first marathon, but I've never ran before. I have low evidence points that I'm a good runner, right? I have low belief on me being a good runner. So I need to be at a certain confidence, and the coach takes that into context. So we build an awesome data model to model that data. You have user data for your company, for your product already. Think of us as a little SDK, open source, that bootstraps additional enriched data for your user model. And that's the belief type data I just mentioned. And anytime any user clicks in your app, and in this AI health coach example, talks to the chatbot, any interactions they have, event streams that fire off in your app tied to that user model, we evolve their belief systems. So it might be like I hook up my Whoop to the AI health coach and I want to run that first marathon. The coach told me, here's your training protocol for running your first marathon. But let's say I don't train. Well, then the coach has the data of did I do it or not, and knows how to meet me where I'm at and keep me accountable. So that's a layer of personalization too. So the developer and the PM, back to your question about the data. In Bryan's case, they own the data. We just give them a container. Our stuff is open source. So we just give them a container to host in their environment that does the belief modeling and the data processing of that enriched user model that I talked about. And in that way, when their agent is trying to figure out what's the next best response, what our thing does is say, here's everything about the user. David's a founder. He's at this age. He tried all of these kinds of things. These are his belief systems. And then the agent basically has more data to work with to decide what's the next best thing to say to David. Does that help?
Yeah. So, okay. How did you come up with this idea? Like, how did this came to be?
Yeah. And I'll just say huge shout out to my co-founder, Jonathan McCoy, one of the best dudes I've ever known. I'm very lucky to have him as a co-founder. He's the CTO co-founder. So I can't take any credit for any of sweet architecture or engineering work. I've had influence and input, but he's the one driving. The other person.
I met him. I don't know. Did you know him? Yeah. I met him in San Francisco. At Sidebar. Yeah. And he's part of a district group that I'm a part of, which is like for a founders group.
That's right. He mentioned that to me actually a few days ago when I said that, David's going to help us with the website copy. He's like, he's part of district and he's so active there. So it's funny that we got these connections. Jonathan's a 12-time founder. He's had a couple exits and he's a smart guy. I met him through Don't Die and Sidebar. And before that, him and our technical advisor, Dean Harif, he is a staff developer at Stripe. Jonathan and Dean met at a party, is the origin story, and started nerding out about philosophy at this party. And then they started talking about like AI alignment. And they were like, well, approaches to AI alignment don't really take into consideration that we all have different lenses on how we perceive reality. Right? Like we have our own nature and nurture that give us this subjective experience of being. And that relates to the AI health coach example because somebody might not receive the question well to be like, hey, do you think about your health as a business? It's like you're a high schooler that never did business. It's like, that'd be a bad response. So people see the world differently. And to meet them where they're at means sharing that lens on reality. And so that goes back to the AI alignment problem. How can we ensure that AI understands us if we don't fully understand ourselves? And we have 8 billion people evolving their belief systems over time as they live life. And so there's this fundamental software problem where if we don't model how the person, who the self is, the person, and have a sweet data model and representation of them, how can an AI interface with them well? And then if that's not an open standard, then you go to system to system to system. I go to ChatGPT, I ask it to do something. I go to Perplexity, it has to relearn me and personalize responses to me, and it doesn't know what I did with ChatGPT, right? And so the future that I see in AI alignment is that the user is at the center. Their belief systems evolve over time. The AI must detect that, otherwise there's drift in a alignment between the human model and the AI model, like their understanding of the human to best serve them and align with them. At a high level, that's what Dean and Jonathan talked about. And I in parallel was kind of thinking about this stuff too. A few months later, Jonathan and I met through a friend at Sidebar that noticed we both were in the Don't Die Bryan Johnson community he was starting. And was like, hey, you two are the only technology startup-y founder people that are also longevity nerds, so maybe you should get together. So he introduced us and we got together and we hit it off and we wanted to work on the same thing. And I was the product, everything else guy, and they were more of on the technical side. And Dean became a technical advisor to the project, and Jonathan and I became co-founders. So that's kind of the story, and that happened last October.
Nice. Yeah, I remember when we met at Sidebar. Were you working on this? Like, I don't remember. I think that's right about when you started it. I think
2 months after I joined Sidebar is when I started it.
Cool.
Yeah,
because you were telling me about it. But yes, that sounds interesting. And so I guess another question, do you think, like, what if Do you think OpenAI can catch up to what you guys are doing? Do you think, I mean, do
Yeah,
you think
yeah,
that's
totally. Yeah, totally. I mean, anybody could catch up to anybody right now because we're in
right?
the AI arms race, right? Like I could
Uh-huh.
make an enterprise SaaS over the weekend. Like
Uh-huh.
the moats are really like for that case, right? Like B2B SaaS, if you're let's say Workday, I used to work at Workday.
Uh-huh.
Um, I think people could remake Workday in much less time than it took to make Workday because of AI right now. And I
Hmm.
think of it like a house. Like it used to take a lot of plumbers and architects and electricians to make houses, and now with AI, it's kind of like we get these software houses almost for free.
Hmm.
There's a lot of maintenance. There's a lot of problems. You have to spend way more time in planning and architecture. You have to think about downstream. How does customer support look for an AI native company?
Hmm.
But the moat isn't quite the software anymore. And so back to your question,
Hmm.
what is our moat against somebody like OpenAI just coming in and saying, hey, we're just going to do this belief stuff better than you?
Uh-huh.
Our thinking is, and Gary Tan from YC, they talk about this, is because software, it's what else are you a nerd about? That's the moat. And
Uh-huh.
we're nerds about neuroscience and philosophy to a degree that other builders I haven't seen. So we'll read
Hmm.
papers over coffee just for fun. We'll run book clubs reading about consciousness, and we'll think about how do we implement these concepts to make our personalization and recommendation engine better than anything else. And what we want to achieve too is so that's the skill set and capability moat.
Hmm.
But that won't save us because you could buy skill set and capability. The
Hmm.
other moat we want to go for is building a community that is also like-minded and believes that a tool like this should be open source, a tool that helps AI alignment and models the self and representations of the self and belief system should be open source. And so we want to build community to get network effects as our long-term moat. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It just so it's kind of like tricky, right? Like as a user, as an end user, I see so much value in your product, but like the people who are going to implement it, like who's the community going to be for? Like the end users or like the you know
No, it'd be
the
the developers. It'd be the
okay,
people building AI for
okay,
people like you. So it'd be like Bryan's development team would
uh-huh,
be some of our open source community contributors. Or
okay,
like they haven't yet, but like that type of engagement is what I want. So Kubernetes is a good example,
hmm,
or React, right? Those are open source projects, but they get sponsorship from like Google or Facebook. But it's
hmm,
better that these things are open source so that it creates a standard across the industry. We
hmm.
aim to do that. And so, if anybody at OpenAI, Anthropic, Perplexity, y'all are listening, you want to sponsor us to be the open source, AI standard protocol and set of interfaces that are clean and elegant around belief and self-modeling, hit us up.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Yeah, no, that sounds good. How like so you said you work with Brian Johnson. Like is healthcare kind of your domain or are you looking to expand into other areas?
Yeah, healthcare, and I'll separate it out. There's like healthcare, and then there's like functional health and traditional medicine. And so,
Right,
just
right.
to make sure the terms are right, um, we're kind of in health, longevity,
Hmm.
and mental space, mental health right now. Like those are where we think the ICP, a builder in those spaces, has probably tried to get an LM agent out there. Super
Hmm.
easy to get an MVP out there.
Hmm.
Really hard to fine tune it and systematically improve it because it's a continuous improvement cycle that your product's out in the wild now. Users are talking to it. You
Hmm.
have to have a way to scientifically, objectively make it better, right? To
Hmm.
retain more, to engage more, get more users to refer it, and convert more. Like get them to pay monthly subscriptions if the agent is a SKU, or if it's like a loss leader, or if it's a part of a package for a set of other SKUs. Whatever your
Hmm.
monetization strategy, you probably want more people using it and coming back to it
Yeah.
to get value.
Hmm.
And where the pain point is where what I would call personalization sensitive spaces. So health, longevity, mental health, personal finance, education. And also, I'll say we're early, and I don't know everything. So there are people that have come up to me, and that's how I kind of learned about personal finance as an example of how somebody might go through an interaction with a loan AI agent. Right? It's a very personal experience. Or debt consolidation. I wasn't super aware of that, but even the emotionality of a human on the phone for those types of cases, it's that really moves the needle on those businesses, and having customer satisfaction being in such a emotional and sensitive space. So I learned about meeting another founder who works in that industry and told me about it. So if anybody's listening to this and you hear about what we're doing, we're trying to help hyper-personalization as a problem for AI agents or AI applications. If you have use cases, let me know. And again, we're open source. We want to learn more use cases.
Yeah. Sounds good. So, okay. Yeah, I mean, so many questions when you do it. Are you guys doing some voice stuff also, or just it's all like, written chatbots for now, or how
it's all, I mean, we don't provide any APIs or SDKs to mirror voice generation. Like, we don't do that. Specifically, what we do is we have an open standard and protocol and interfaces for what does it mean to represent a human model as code, and then the underlying belief systems that evolve over time for that human model. So what we do is basically enrich existing user data models with ours, and then help you process more data so that your LLM pipelines, you could use that data to improve your evaluations and then continuously improve your evals. And evals are the moat for any AI company. To be really clear, like, everybody talks about this in the space right now. Evals are the moat, and nobody's talking about specifically epistemic evals, though, and that's what we do for these personalization sensitive spaces.
Got it. And so, what are some of the challenges you guys are running into right now? Like, offering this solution to, or even like, I'm assuming you've tested the solution. Like, what are some of the challenges that have come up that you're still trying to figure out how to jump over?
Yeah, I mean, it's we're still trying to find traction. So our evolution since we met like 8 months ago, and I've been on this ride. We started with, hey, we should build an AI health coach platform, like based on our SDK. That could be how we go to market. And then it was like, no, like we don't got the resources for that, and that'd be too big of a lift, and we would need to get a lot of influencers bought in. We're capital constrained to try to go make those partnerships. And then we looked at kind of our strengths and weaknesses, and we're like, I think we could build like developer tooling really well, because I know that well, and my co-founder knows that well, and we were part of Bryan Johnson's community and his development team's attention, and saw an opportunity with, hey, people in this space have lots of data they got to make sense of. AI is a perfect tool. Oh, you would probably want that to be a very personalized experience. So we had these hypotheses about what we had these market hypotheses as we were building and talking to customers and trying to understand, is there an intersection between longevity and AI where we have a skill set to contribute value to the market? So we've just been in a constant cycle of doing customer development to figure out, okay, is this useful? So we validated it is useful. And hey, are there gaps in current developer tooling for these, what we call epistemic evals? I'll drop you a paper to share in the podcast notes, but most teams are familiar with evals as a term. So let me break it down. There's foundational model evals. OpenAI, Anthropic, they work on that. You go to ChatGPT, that's what you're accessing, right? And so they have to do a lot of work to make that better. And then there's application-specific evals. So you have your foundational models you might be calling. So, you might just call OpenAI, but then what are your application-specific evals? If you're in the AI health coach space, and then a sub-niche of that would be the biohacker longevity space, like with the Bryan AI use case. What is the set of evals for you for that application space? So when people say the moat, that's what they mean is for a particular problem space and market, what is the data needed to provide the best reproducible outcomes and serve the jobs to be done for the user of that problem space? Okay, and then above that are user-centric and belief-centric evals. And this is the thing that nobody's talking about is user-centric, belief-centric evals. And we are saying those are epistemic evals because that has to do with how does the user perceive the quality of the agent, the experience. Those are personal. That's very subjective. How you talk to an agent and perceive its response. Maybe somebody hates numbered lists, but they're okay with bullet lists. Like that's like a very nitpicky case, but it is a case, right? And there's all sorts of other cases too, like language, tone, emotionality and response. How do I format the response? Those are all very subjective qualities. So back to it, evals are the moat. Application evals for sure are going to be part of your moat. And if you're in a personalization sensitive industry, like I mentioned around health, longevity, mental health, personal finance, education, and maybe other domains that I'm unaware of at this point in time, you're going to have to think about epistemic evals. That's my very confident hypothesis. Still getting more data, but we have a pipeline building of other folks building in the space. Like just had a call with Superpower yesterday to share with them kind of what we're doing with our open source SDK, and they were really interested because they realized similar thing. Everybody looks at their health a different way. Everybody has a certain level of beliefs around their health, and that's really how you meet the user where they're at.
Yeah, I feel like it's such a good use case for healthcare, or just like, personalized healthcare. I mean, I think it's like becoming like a huge thing, right? Because like oftentimes you go to a doctor and you get like a blanket treatment. So I think there's something there huge, or something huge, but like, so what's in it for them? Like, why should they care about this product? Like, what,
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, I think that the very human model, I would say, is if you go to a real health coach or a real doctor and they just gave you this blanket thing and you're really anxious about how to improve your health, and they gave you a blanket generic statement and spent almost no time trying to understand you, would you go back to that doctor? Would you have wanted to pay them? No. And so the very human thing is, if a service provider is not personalizing my value, I probably will go to a service provider that will. So you bet your ass AI agents are that, right? Like the future is that every business, every service provider is going to have an agent representation of them, and how the quality of that agent's experience to the user, that affects their brand, that affects their leads, that affects their conversion, right? That affects their entire funnel. Like a lot of teams are going to market with an agent where that takes in, that does qualification, right? So if the user meets your agent and that's a representation of your business, first of all, if it's not personalized, eventually that's going to be where people get the edge and your agent will be used. So every part of your business that has any agentic capabilities, think of this. Can I have my agent eliminate time to value for the user? How do I do that? It's a function of understanding the user, as you just saw in that service provider coach case. So I like thinking about the pirate metrics, the R metrics, like acquisition, retention, revenue. Personalization affects all of those things in a good way. If you the user, they'd be more likely to come back to the agent. They'd be more likely to refer other users. They'd be more likely to convert and keep paying OpenAI for a monthly subscription, for example.
Makes sense. Yeah, I feel like it's pretty huge. I mean, like if you go to a restaurant and you have like a shitty hostess,
not going back. Or you might even go on Yelp and put all the worst reviews because you had such a shitty experience, right? So it really, like, personalization affects every industry. It affects every problem space. And but as a startup, we can't go after everything. So we're thinking, where are the areas where the decision makers with budget, like people responsible for building AI, and then the decision maker of that team, technical product manager or engineer responsible for building AI, they know, personalization is the problem. Getting the agent out the door so easy, but like now the users are complaining. We have support tickets. Crap. How do we agents responses so it's not generic? And then the CTO is generally aware of that problem, or the chief product officer is generally aware of that problem in these industries: health, longevity, mental health, personal finance, education. And so they'd be more likely to be like, oh yeah, I get, we've tried agents. Agents are easy. Generic agents are easy. Hyper-personalized agents are hard. And what we found on the EpistemicMe team is epistemic evals are necessary for those problems.
Okay. So would you say there are some companies that are kind of doing this, or like they figured out they can't have like shitty, like customer support or whatever? It's like, are they doing this stuff in house? Like, what? I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know if Index is a competition, but like,
that's a good
I think there's
question.
so much. I mean, there's so much heat that some of these companies have gotten because they've installed AI chatbots and they've had horrible experiences. I think one
Yeah,
chatbot cursed someone out or something.
well, exactly, right? Like our learning, it's easy to get an agent out the door, but it's not easy to get a hyper personalized agent out the door that consistently provides value in a predictable way. So your business metrics, retention, revenue, referrals, like those business metrics are good. That's the problem. And I guess first principles, let's take a step back before answering that question. First principles, what is the problem we're solving? The agent gets some data and it has to respond with some information or packaged information into an experience, like maybe click a button, add a health protocol that I recommended to your health plan. Like that's really it. And so you're optimizing the agent's response. And to optimize the agent's response, what I'm saying is you need to optimize the agent's understanding of the user. So that seems obvious, right? When you put it that way, like a health coach has to understand you to best personalize. Agent has to do the same. But in the software world, I think what is hard is the question of how do I model the user? How do I model their beliefs? How can I mathematically determine that this response is any better than this response? And first principles, it's because agents, LLM-based agents are now, it's non-deterministic. There isn't a ground truth, so to say. So engineers and product managers, chief product officers, chief technology officers, they'll be feeling this if they put an agent out there, which is, oh, how do we scientifically make this better to affect our business metrics the right way, given it's so subjective? Before, it used to be when the user goes to the screen, if they click this button, they should see this data, and that's just test-driven development. There's a ground truth from the product requirements document. You extract the acceptance criteria, you cover it with unit and regression tests, and you execute. There's ground objectivity. It's deterministic. In these LLM pipelines and applications, it's non-deterministic. That's the real hard part that industry leaders building AI applications are facing, which is how can I systematically and scientifically improve something that is non-deterministic and subjective? That's a very difficult problem. So back to your question, are other people trying to solve the problem we're trying to solve? I think other people are trying to solve application evals. That's a very valuable problem space. I kind of think of a hierarchy of eval needs, kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. There's the foundational model evals, application evals, like AI health coach. And then there's system interpretability of the user level evals, which is how well does your user system understand the user? That's user-centric and belief-centric evals. And that's what I wrap up into the term epistemic evals. I haven't heard of anybody else working on this, but if anybody else is working on this, would love to collaborate. Because again, we're open source. We just want to make the best tool possible to help solve the AI alignment problem. And selfishly, so that I have kids someday and I'm not worried about them surviving in this next AI age. That's a big reason I'm doing this. Is I think it's necessary for minimizing existential risk is a standard protocol and center interfaces around this self modeling and belief modeling. So I haven't seen it. Trying to get more like really involved in the evals community space and like following all the different thought leaders on Twitter. Haven't seen anybody talk about epistemic evals though.
Okay. I mean, just so, can you explain exactly what you mean by evals, just in case someone doesn't fully understand? Yeah.
Sure. And I think the best way to maybe explain this is I'll just share my screen. There's a really good paper that talks about user-centric evaluation frameworks for conversational recommender systems. This is a paper that talks about the problem that I just mentioned. So this is a conversational system, right? Like user on the left, you have a conversation component, you have a recommendation component on the right. User says some stuff, it gets a response. You have an engine that makes a recommendation based on what the user says. High level, that's kind of a chatbot. And what this paper says is everything I was just talking about, subjectivity, looking at this might help. Here, let me try to zoom in well. So how does the agent, hang on, how does the user perceive qualities about the agent that affects their experience, that affect the perception of the different qualities that are subjective about the agent experience, that affects the user's experience, and therefore that affects engagement, retention, versions, right? So there's different heuristics that may affect that, and I kind of tie that to that belief concept. So how well does the agent explain this to me? The interaction, was adequate? Did they recommend this well? Did I perceive it to be accurate? Was it a new type of recommendation? Like something we ran into with AI Bryan was somebody had a back injury that'd been nursing for decades, and they went to AI Bryan and they were dissatisfied because it didn't give them new information. So that's one heuristic that's subjective. Recommendation diversity, even that is like a perceived quality that affects the user's experience. Information sufficiency, interface adequacy. So over here, then we have beliefs, user attitudes, etc. And then over here, we have the business metrics, which are purchase intention, right? Like you would want to know as a business running, like if you're an entrepreneur, your business is a system. To make money, you have to think about, like, for example, in a mixed panel post hog, you're looking at your product and you're looking at what are the event streams or the series of clicks through the app that move them to conversion or retain them or get them to come back. Those are your levers. And so what I'm saying is personalization comes down to how, not just grouping cohorts by clicks. I really think about it as grouping cohorts by beliefs, these more subjective qualities of the experience. Okay, so back to it, what's an eval? That's what you're asking. An eval is basically just, I think somebody said this in a class I just recently took. It's essentially regression testing for your agent. It's basically protecting it from making the wrong response. So if I, for example, came to a mental health therapist agent that is supposed to replicate a mental health care, service provider, and I said, hey, I'm feeling depressed and sad and anxious. And then the thing just tells me to meditate more. Well, first of all, like that is a terrible response. The second thing might be, well, depending on the state or city or locale you're in, you might have compliance requirements where the agent, this is a total guess, this is shot in the dark, maybe somebody will correct me, but I would imagine you want to leave it room open where your agent needs to know whether it recommends suicide hotline or not. And so if somebody says they're depressed, your agent has the responsibility, just because you're a business working in that space, probably to assess, is that the right moment to evaluate what does this user need? So evals is simply that term, evaluation. How does the agent evaluate what's the best response here? Application evals are domain specific within health. What's the best response for here in health and mental health for that use case? User-centric and belief-centric evals, what you see on the screen, that's what we work on, is an even deeper level of personalization beyond user, said, and SAD. Agent used to generate response. Hey, response detected. We evaluated depressed. We're in this state. There's a compliance rule. We need to respond with suicide hotline. So that would be in your prompt engineering. Okay, but in that example, that's application evals. That has nothing to do with the user's belief systems. And so that only gets to a certain level of sophistication, which is good. But for the space, it's very personalization sensitive. So you would want to get to the level of what you see on the screen. How do they perceive the experience? What are their belief systems around health? What is their definition of depression or sadness even when they say that, so that the agent knows what they mean or what they believe at that point in time to meet them with the right recommendation. So hopefully that makes a bit more sense. Evaluations, like, it doesn't have to be too crazy. It's mainly how does the agent respond. That's the high level. And what you, as a builder team, what you do is you look at your conversational turns, you look at your traces, you look at your tool chain calls. How does the agent actually evaluate that? And what were the series of steps that informed the response that they gave the user? That's what evals are. And there's more to it.
Got
Like
it.
I can't cover the whole thing here, but getting the best response is the goal of evals.
Would you say that the product that you built, you know that like it can do a better job at talking to humans than other humans, or is just like
Oh, that's an interesting question. Well, okay, here I have a maybe slightly hot take on this. Um, I've talked to people that outsource their mental health to ChatGPT. So that tells me that they're probably getting more value out of that conversation than they are with humans. So then to answer your question, there's a subset of the population that believes that they get more value out of this. On the flip side, I am seeing papers saying that humans that offload their thinking onto, agents are losing their critical reasoning skills. So there's multiple sides to this. So I don't think there's a right or wrong, and it's almost too early to say. However, the way that I think about this from a utilitarian point of view is how many people can access mental health care service provider, especially among my friends that I know. It's a lot of friction to go call to figure out who takes my insurance, and some of these providers don't have up-to-date calendars. I can't self-service book, and there's obviously markets for matchmaking and removing friction there because services like BetterHelp exist to do that. So that tells me that there's a need. Now, to your question, and I'll explain it with an example that I drew from Reid Hoffman's book Super Agency. He talked about how from a utilitarian point of view, that's where I was going with this, is if there's so much friction to get mental health care, imagine you go through all that friction to get the scheduling, to get to the person, and then it's a shitty therapist, right? And it's like, oh, fuck, I got to go through all that again? Like, no. And so you'll just go be depressed because that sucked, right? And I say that kind of facetiously, but it's honestly the reality of things. And for anybody out there that deals with mental health struggles, or I've dealt with my own, and I go to therapy. I think of it as the mental health gym. Highly recommend that. Finding the right therapist is hard. Continuing with it, making room for it, that's you've already found the person. But then there's even the question of different therapists have different expertise. So there's, Gestalt therapy, there's humanistic therapy, there's CBT, there's all sorts of different kinds of therapies. And so a future that I imagine is, what if you got a Netflix subscription to all these agents that have application evals and epistemic evals at the level of a real set of expert therapists that practice that particular therapy mode? Then wouldn't I pay $20 to just give that a shot for a night to try a bunch of different therapists, if I was feeling sad or depressed or on a problem? And then I see, well, what kind of therapy approach works best for me, what resonates well, and I can kind of sample it. It democratizes that access a bit. And then maybe that same app match makes me with a real human therapist of that skill set, right? That's a future I could see where, people maybe use these from a utilitarian point of view. We democratize that access. And I guess subjectively right now, I can't say, back to your question, like, is it better than talking to a human? I'd imagine, because some humans are talking to agents with, about their emotional problems, not talking to other humans. I'd imagine for some humans that's true, and they found a solution that works for them. But it's also complicated. There's lots of dynamics too around, especially with men. I think there's like shame in going to a therapist. So it's like, I might as well go to GPT, right? There's a lot of that too. So I don't know, man. That's a hard question to answer, but those are some of my thoughts around the topic space.
I mean, personally, I think there has been so many people that wasted my time. I have no shame in saying that, hey, ChatGPT just, I don't know, gets you from A to B a lot faster. So, and I think there's a lot of complaints around therapy, just, being there so that you just stay in therapy, is not there to kind of help you get out of therapy. So, and there's different therapists, different therapist types, and the ones they're usually the best. They want to work with you. At least that's what I've been told. I haven't really done therapy of any kind. I think maybe in college just to check on my ADHD. But yeah, I mean, I think it kind of makes sense from the stories that I've heard. But essentially, the best ones that they kind of want to get you go do a few meetings with you, and if they can't fix it, then I don't know, you need to find someone else, kind of a thing. And then the worst ones, they kind of want to keep you in the therapy just so you keep kind of coming back
Yeah.
to the bills, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think of it as a tool.
Uh-huh.
And the way that I frame the analogy is you go to the gym 6 times a week, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
when you vacation or skip the gym for a few weeks and then you're like going up some stairs and then you feel it, right? You know what I'm talking about? Like it feels,
Yeah.
you're reminded that you should be doing the thing you should be doing, but you haven't. Okay.
Yeah.
What's the mental health equivalent of skipping the physical health gym? Because that's skipping the physical health gym. Everybody knows that feeling of I usually go, I don't go. I have a period where I'm huffing and puffing going up some stairs that didn't matter before. So what's the mental health equivalent? The mental health equivalent in my experience is I'm not as excited to get out of bed. For some reason, I have a lower amount of energy for things that usually energize me. In my case, if I'm going through a lot of stress, like a recent thing I went through was a family dog had health issues and my brother had some health issues. So I tend to withdraw from the world and I'm like, I'll just go into workaholism. That's my personality by default.
Yeah.
And through therapy, what I've learned is to watch inclination as a signal to be like, oh, go do the other thing, which is not go be a hermit and go see friends, go tell friends that you're going through a hard time. Okay, yeah, go get support. And so if I skip therapy / if I skip, I meditate every day, I journal every day, I really try to keep my mental game sharp so that I'm always productive. And I like being, content and happy. And I find that when I take care of my brain and my mental health, that's the case. So I don't skip therapy. It's my mental health gym so that minimize the amount of time where I'm feeling less energized about things I usually get energy out of, or I'm doing bad habits that suck for me. And I know it sucks for me, but like, it's a nice escape in the moment kind of thing. Like my bad thing is I'll like go to the store and buy Sour Patch Kids or something if I'm feeling shitty. And it doesn't help with my health goals to crush a bag of Sour Patch Kids, process terrible. Like it doesn't help, but that's like an inclination for me. So I've learned those types of things in therapy. And I will say, like, I've heard lots of people had bad experiences in therapy. So if people are listening to this and you had bad experiences, I don't know if you want to talk about it with another person that has had lots of experience with therapy, happy to talk to you. Hit me up. This is I think it's a very important topic. I'm very passionate about it. But yeah, that's kind of how I see it, David, is like, just like you would, if you skip the physical health gym, you fucking feel it. If you skip the mental health gym, it's harder to feel. Like it's, and especially as an entrepreneur, we go through so much suck. It's hard to distinguish. It's like, is this just normal suck? Or is this like, also my mental game is off suck? I don't know. Does that resonate at all?
A lot, man. I mean, like, as I mentioned, like, to me, it's like, I don't think I notice this thing, like, kind of like the way you notice it, or at least like, maybe I'll notice it like a month down the road. But, like in my mind, it's like, what's the most important thing? Health. And so every once in a while, it's like, I come back to that and I'm like, well, shit, it's like I do my exercises, that kind of keeps me in the game, but then my diet is off. The amount of hours I spend working is also off. Like that's all I think about. Then like, like I spend less time like with like my family. I mean, I've gotten pretty good at this stuff, like where it's not like a problem per se. But somehow I just don't like the idea that health becomes like, second or third option, right? And so my mental health, like for me, meditation definitely works. I feel better. I'm more relaxed sleeping. And then like, like I don't wake up at like 4 or 5 a.m. With my mind racing on what, all the things I want to finish for the day kind of a thing. So I'm with you on that stuff. I'm just trying to think like what, like for me, like where would I use this kind of like chatbot? I think if I was working with like Bryan, for example, or some other coaches, like I think it could be quite helpful. Like where do you see Like what are the kind of customers that you're going after now? Like who do you think is an ideal ICP
Yeah.
for you?
Anybody that is trying to build longevity, health, mental health applications that are driven by AI. So Whoop would be an example, Superpower is an example, Function Health, anybody that has AI offerings. And it's because in the health and longevity space in particular, there's so much data. And there's actually a multi-billion-dollar market forming in the US and around the world. But in the US, it's looking to be 5 billion in a few years for basically personal health optimization, so function health of that category. So if folks that are builders in these places that have personalization needs, we'd be happy to help you out and give you some pointers on like even how to make your evals process better so you could systematically improve your agent. Be happy to just even give you free advice on that. Because we have a deep desire to help people building these tools because they help people be healthier. And so that makes me feel really happy. It's like, oh, if these builders are using some of my tools to help their users achieve better health and longevity outcomes, mental health outcomes, that makes me feel good going to bed at night,
Yeah.
That would be the ideal.
What do you think, like the government, right? Like, I mean, think about like how much, like whether Medicare or any, like how much spending there is, and if people got the right care or the right advice and the right attention, it seems like there's some opportunity there. Have you guys looked into that?
Well, yeah. So David, the way I think about it is personalization is the key to every industry. All you're doing for any product or service is you're trying to personalize value to help them do a job that need doing and see progress on. That could even be entertainment and gaming. Recommend me the next best League of Legends skin or personalize me a whole fucking skin, right? Like, and that problem right there is the problem of digital identity. I want to feel like I belong online. I want to express myself online, right? That's the job to be done. So every space requires this. So then the question for us is, we're a 2-man AI native startup team. We can't go for giant government contracts unless somebody listens to this pod and wants to give us a giant government contract. Hit me up. Like I'm all ears. Like, but doing that sales cycle, I've kind of been through that for enterprise. It's like a couple years, 3 years, maybe a 5-year sales cycle, depending on the government department. But back to it, is there opportunity in the healthcare space to do better? Because that is what personalization solves, is matchmaking of supply of value and demand of value. Or in this case, I use some other language around a job to be done, a user hiring a product or service to do a job. So healthcare, absolutely. And I've had my own stories around like I didn't get the right matchmaking in healthcare. And you also mentioned like, you had bad therapy experiences. So like those are all matchmaking personalization problems. So then the question is like, where is it heaviest? Where is it most painful? And the way that I see it, because there's a market forming for people to take personalized health into their own hands and do their own testing, like Function Health and Superpower are proving that there's market demand. The root cause of that is actually our healthcare system in the US sucks. Just period. Like really sucks. So like, A16Z, like Andreessen Horowitz had this prediction, like there's going to be a giant longevity market. Like you see Tony Robbins making something around this, like Bryan Johnson making something around this, like there's an emerging market here because our healthcare sucks. So there's ample room for opportunity. I don't think it's going to come from traditional legacy providers because they don't have AI dev teams, period. If I sell it to a shop where they don't even know what a software development lifecycle is, let alone an AI development lifecycle, that's a hard battle of education to a customer that they have a problem to solve. But the people trying to create the industry that's emerging, those are easier to be like, hey, isn't personalization a thing you got to think about with AI? Yes, Robert, it is. Yeah, like it's a much easier sale and conversation because of it.
Yeah. I'm just because for the most part, like with my father, with my mom, like I helped them out with some like medical stuff, and so right now I'm living in Mexico, and it's been a couple of years since I like talk to the hospital where she goes to, and actually where I used to go to get to just see my primary doctor. And so in those 2 years, it sounds like they automated a lot of stuff. And when you call now, you get like, you have to like call the hotline, and then you actually don't get to speak to anyone, as far as I can say. And so it's like, it's kind of automated, but it's like at a very low quality. So I feel like
Yeah.
I mean, I guess where these companies are going, they're trying to slash more costs. And when you do that, personalization goes out the window, kind
Yeah.
of, because like you're, like, I don't know. And so I think that's where, there could be an opportunity where it's like, okay, if you're gonna take things away that should be there, that, like I talk to someone and I'm like, I'm trying to create an appointment for my mom. They need to know like what medication she takes
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like if you take that away, it just kind of like makes me think like, well, I don't know, should we still be going here? Like I thought this was like one of the best hospitals, blah blah blah. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so I think there's a lot of room to improve there. Also, the way they prescribe things, I think it's just like everyone is kind of like it's kind of like a numbers game. They all have like a dollar sign on them. It's like, oh,
For
okay,
sure.
like they're old, so they don't
Yeah.
have maybe too long to live. Like let's just give them this and this, and like get them out the door as soon
100%.
as.
100%. I don't know that much. I'm not educated about healthcare systems outside of the US, so I can't say. But if it is anything like the US, I think we're like, I read this book, Factfulness, a few years ago. They said something like we're in top 3 spending, if I recall correctly, for healthcare, like tax the most, top 3, like 30th or 29th or some bullshit in terms of longevity, like lifespan. And so we die sooner, but we pay more for it. Like that's we die sooner and we pay more for healthcare. Like that's crazy, right? Like something's failing there. And I'll just share real quick. If you look at this, I might have showed you this in person. It's like
No, I haven't seen that. But I have a couple of those too. How'd you get that?
It's a bad scar. I almost died in the middle of the desert, mountain biking on a rock climbing trip. I had to be helicoptered to the hospital. This was during COVID. Wow. And I had a shattered left kidney. The elbow open compound fracture. I was bleeding out of my arm because a bone came through. And I got to the healthcare system and, I had to advocate for myself and I was nearly dead. People couldn't, I was nearly dead. People couldn't visit me because it was COVID. And I was just given like, they were beating around the bush around when would my appointment be for surgery. Like even I had a surgery. They didn't put me under when they should have put me under. Like they operated on me live to embolize my kidney and didn't even put me under or give me appropriate pain meds. So I was just like I was just on a bed awake and they're just putting something through my groin to embolize my kidney. And I'm like, is this like, and then they tried to keep me there longer and fed me like fucking Pop-Tarts and Cheerios to heal. And I'm like, and I'm probably paying hundreds of dollars for this bullshit. Yeah, it turns out it was. And so you ask, like, are there opportunities for the healthcare to be better? Like, for sure. For sure. For sure. But where my thing could probably solve it is not any of the stuff I just mentioned, because those are other problems. There are other upstream problems there. I think that has to do with insurance as an industry, honestly, and some of the constraints they place on medical providers and the experience that doctors and nurses have to go through as a result of the constraints of the system. I can't solve that. That's a systematic. We need government policy or industry change. What I could solve is if anybody's trying to build AI-driven health apps or mental health apps or longevity apps, hit me up.
Sounds good. Yeah. I know we're running out of time here. I mean, let's just say we ran out of time here for today.
We do a quick website, like just look through it.
We can do like a quick, Let's
tell me this trash. I was really excited to get a teardown from David because he famously has this story about landing Rover as a customer just with copy. And I'm like, dude, if we can get that guy to look at our website copy, I totally will take him up on that.
You want me to? I'll screen the share, or I'll do the screen share, and then let me see if this is working. EpistemicMe.ai. Here we go. So I mean, a little bit about me. I used to have a community of about, I think, 6,000 people, and people joined the community so they could give feedback on each other's products and position it better. I'm not a positioning expert per se, but I think I've seen so many startups working over the years with like our company. Maybe there's a couple things I can add here.
For sure, you can. Like, I'm a new at this, so I would love to get your expert advice.
yeah, just talking, for past like 1 hour, like things that have been confusing to me is like, well, who's the target audience? Is it the developers or am I the user? Like, and when I read this, understand your users, give them recommendations they actually want. Um, I think it's good. What I think is like when you're like early stage, I think it's just easier to go more narrow, and you have to figure out how to do that, right? Maybe set a bunch of different landing pages. So
Yeah.
if you have Bryan Johnson as your as one of your testers of the product or beta customers, I would maybe double down on that and see if there's other Bryan Johnsons out there that you can reach out or like reach out to and see if you can gain their attention by being very specific. Like, we work with the types of Bryan Johnson, and this is what the product does. That's what I would do, because when you try to do everything for everyone, you're kind of doing nothing for
Nobody.
no one, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's the idea.
That's
And
true.
so
Okay.
it's like it's very hard. I mean, like even I have this problem. I know really good entrepreneurs, like people who've done pretty big things with their startups, raised tens of millions of dollars, and they struggle with it. Like I feel like we all say the same thing, or we
Yeah.
we all say the right thing, but when we go and execute, it just becomes harder because you think you're pigeonholing yourself into something smaller. Maybe
Yeah.
just our vision is so big that it's like we don't want to think small. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think that could be the
Totally.
problem. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like we want the end result. We want like this is for everyone. It's $1 billion company. That's what we're starting with. But we're afraid to go narrow. And so
Yeah.
the community that I built, like that had 6,000 people. I mean, the reason it caught fire and it just blew up, like it grew to 6,000 people in like less than 3 months, is because it solved like one very specific problem for like a very specific audience, and that was like people who were applying to YC, and they needed to improve their startup pitch, right? And so YC in one of her lectures says that like, hey, if someone can't understand what your startup does in like 1 or 2 sentences, like chances are they're not going to listen to everything else. So everything starts with like the first like 1 to 3 sentences. So
Okay.
I mean my feedback here is just say exactly who this is for.
Like literally
And
say for developers of AI health applications or something like that.
I would, yeah, something like that, and maybe
Okay.
even go even more narrow, right?
More.
And so
Okay.
then talk to
Yeah.
them, yeah, and see if there's a market there, and that way you kind of cancel things out. Alternatively, you can go pretty wide, and you can just do the pitch in your email. But I think what does happen sometimes is like, I mean, it can't, to me, it matters, right? Like if someone pitched me this and I go on their website and it says something different, then I'm like,
Oh, you don't get the continuity
I'm a
then.
little bit confused, It's
Yeah.
like we're short on time. Like I don't have too
Mm.
much time to figure out like is it this or is it that?
Yeah.
It's just good to have like what I would do is just like sprints, like 1 week, or like have a few different landing pages
Okay.
for different demographics, and when you reach out to that person, just go through their through their journey of pain
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever it is, whoever they're solving this problem for. Is it their company, their startup? And just kind of walk your way backwards, right? Like are they having are they having issues with this? Like is their
Mm.
boss yelling at them because their chatbot is subpar, right? Like
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
if you can speak to their pain points and make their whole landing pages about like that one persona, that is my advice. Like, and
Okay.
it seems to work, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
No, that's great advice.
so yeah,
What do you think of the subtext? So we were just concentrated on the tagline of the hero section.
so the things that caught my attention was like, this, I like this, right?
Okay.
Personalized responses tailored to individual beliefs and systems, epistemic frameworks. Um, I think, I mean, I don't know if everyone's gonna understand what epistemic frameworks is. Like, so
Yeah, for sure. That's a good point.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how
We have this almost, it is a bit of an existential thing where we when we first formed the thing, I questioned, like, should we name this epistemic me? Who the fuck knows this word? And the strong opinion was, okay, we want to go for people that believe that beliefs and philosophy of how we evidence our beliefs and see what knowledge is and what truth is. We want to draw people that are thinking at that level. So a good example is the DeepMind CEO on Twitter, I think a few months ago, said something like, we need philosophy to help us understand what to build in AI. So we're trying to attract that kind of niche philosophical agentic builder. So that's why we kind of went with the name and all the styling. But again, we're sort of early. So I'm looking at how many leads we capture a month. And that's probably my best thing to look at right now. And yeah, I'm going to take the advice to put up a few different landing pages to A/B test that.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I mean, I think what you're saying it also does make sense. But then you kind of have to go deeper. Like, where do I find these users that are software engineers that are also philosophical, right?
Yeah.
And if you do, I think that could work really well as long as you can find them. And then if you don't, then you have to.
So maybe we start there. Is like, I kind of see the website. I want to drive people to this and like send it to people when I meet them in person or whatever. And then ideally, they click to this from our content. So my top of funnel right now is actually complete garbage. So I'm working on that. I realize I have a lot of bottom of funnel content, like our podcast go topics, but I don't have like broad top of funnel content like AI alignment or evals. What's the difference between app evals versus epistemic evals? So we got to work on that. I will say where I found the best distribution channel I found so far are people that are in the AI evals community on Twitter. And in this particular community ran by Hamel and Shreya, this AI evals course. These are other builders of AI agents and LM applications. So we're in a Discord with them now. So actually, my next step is I've been taking interviews with our hypothesized ICP builder and just trying to see like what words they use when they talk about this. And my thinking is through a few conversations like that in a jobs to be done sort of causal structure interview style, then I'll learn what words they use to describe the problems that they're aware of, and then I'll refine this. What do you think of that strategy, first of all? Like, that's sort of my thinking now that I've found a community that I believe that they live in.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you know where they hang out, right? Like, you go after them and like, I mean, you basically like make the whole landing page in the community about them and then see if it works, right?
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't, then you have to
get back to the
drawing board and figure out like who your end user is.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, I think the more you can speak to someone's pain, the better it is. Like I like, for example, I gotta send this to you. Actually, it's amazing. I think it's one of the best ads I've ever seen. And it's a dude that works at NASA, supposedly. I don't know. I think he does. And he created a course for people who have ADHD and can't focus. And he created a course or like some kind of lead magnet that helps them break through things. And so he calls out two types of people that you should not listen to, which is the love gurus and like the motivational coaches. Okay. And these are all the things that he's tried by working with them and nothing has worked. And then he goes through all the pain points that someone who has like ADHD and maybe someone who doesn't even have ADHD. And he's like, these are all the things that have screwed me over like up till, for 10 years. So he makes the problem big, right? So he's like, for 10 years, like I was going to college, but I wasn't able, like, or in college I did okay, but when I tried to do my own startup, it was like hard to focus because I didn't have any support system. I didn't have anyone who kept me accountable, and everything was overwhelming. It seems like I was doing a lot, but nothing was getting done. And so he lists all these things that I mean, like I have ADHD. I mean, I don't, but like
So
I
it
figured,
resonated. Yeah.
you know, like
Okay.
yeah,
So
I
think
figured,
about. Okay, I'll think about that. That's good advice, man.
yeah.
That's a good story.
I'll send you the actual
Yeah.
copy. It was so good. I had to
Yeah.
download it because it seems like each line was written for someone who has ADHD
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
an entrepreneur. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And so each pain point, everything was just like super
I love that.
the spot, you know, hit the nail on its head. And it was, yeah, I think like I mean, he himself said that he has bootstrapped a 7-figure startup. All it is like some kind of diagram that he sells. So he probably made, running one ad, he probably made $1 million.
Jeez, man.
Yeah.
I'm making money the wrong way. Shit.
Yeah, no, but I mean, like, right? Like, I mean, he says that
It's
whatever,
powerful.
you know, diagram that he drew or like system that he built makes a, you know, like he would bet his life on it. I don't know what it is. I haven't bought it, but I probably will. I
mean, you're talking about it. You're selling it on his behalf because it was so good, the copy.
Exactly. Yeah. So
That's cool.
I want to buy it. I want to buy it because his ad was so good. Not even like whether it's going to help or not.
Support copywriting. That's amazing.
And so that's what I'm saying. Like, if you can write a copy like that speaks to users' pain points, like I think it's going to be on point. And like, think about all the things that we discussed today. It's like, you know, like I go to the hospital. It feels unpersonalized. I mean, I don't know if that's like the case, but you know, like I've maybe if your end user is like.
Dude,
let's just say fitness
one thing that we heard from our end users is like, hey, we're testing it internally and the AI is being mean to some of our teammates.
Yeah.
Or another thing that we hear is that they get a lot of user complaints. So customer support tickets, hallucinations. So, okay. I think I got good feedback. I'll even start. Yeah. So first of all, like, sounds like I'm going in a good direction, interviewing the hypothesized ICP and going to where they live. I need to get more reps in for testing different landing pages and copy. Yeah. And then my takeaway is really listen to how they talk about their pain points and use those words. Like,
so I think like, you know, like I'm super related to the problem that you're solving, but the thing is, I'm not really your ICP because I'm not a developer, right? I could be a partner. So like technically like, my feedback, like take it with a grain of salt, but like I guess like one thing that you should take, like if you're gonna speak to the developers, like you need to figure out like what their pain points are and like what problems they've ran into that got them in trouble. So I, you know, just make it about them. I think it becomes a little bit tricky when it's like it's about me and about them, and then I'm like I kind of like it, but it's like I'm not a developer, so like,
So really, their feedback is what I want. Yeah, that makes sense. But I'm taking from you you have on even how to think about it, and that's valuable to me, so I appreciate that.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. Robert, where can people find you? LinkedIn, email, website?
I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter or X, Threads, Facebook, TikTok. I'm on YouTube. The main thing is YouTube, and I run a newsletter, so I ship a podcast and a newsletter every week. I'll send David my links on that. You can find it in the show notes. And if you're, interested in open source AI alignment, if you're interested in building hyper-personalized AI applications or chatbots, hit me up. Would love to help you out.
Okay, sounds good. Perfect. Robert, if anyone wants to hear more, just message me or send me a DM and I'll connect you all too. But thank you for coming on the show. I think you're building something really interesting. I can't wait to see how far it goes and how big you guys scale. And then, we'll be, talking again soon, I'm sure.
Podcast number 30 trillion. Let's get it, fam. Let's go.